Hello, my name is Orlando Campa, and this is my walkaway story. Just a little bit about me. I am a Mexican immigrant. I was born in Mexico and I moved to Texas when I was very, very young. I've been out of the closet since I was 15, so almost 22 years now. I'm very proud to say. I was raised Catholic, did the baptism, First Communion, confirmation, but now I am a practicing pagan. And I'm also a creative type. I am a filmmaker. I am a painter, sculptor. I like dancing. I like to do it all, including stand-up comedy. So growing up, I was always on the left, being in a predominantly Hispanic area. I felt like I had no choice but to be on the left because that's what I grew up with, you know? I hated Republican politicians and I hated Fox News. I don't know if it was something about the conservatives and the way they were with me growing up and the way it is now, but I genuinely bought into the fact that Republicans were just pure evil and Fox News is just a propaganda machine. So I didn't have a lot of Republican or conservative friends, but the ones that I did, I loved debating. And I always pressed on different issues, like people wore the Confederate flag and things of that nature. But I never hated them, I never attacked them. It was just not in my nature to really attack people. So when Trump was running for president, I hated him. I believed everything that my friends would share on social media, mostly Facebook. I paid attention to a lot of what I saw on CNN and MSNBC. The thing is, I've always connected with people of different backgrounds, so it was never a big issue for me to be able to talk to Trump supporters because I really wanted to understand why they voted for him. And yeah, there were some people who gave me really cockamamie answers that I felt were just rhetoric, and some people I came to find out gave me legitimate reasons. But at the time, I didn't understand why people would vote for Trump, and I still hated him. What ended up happening was I started watching alternative media on YouTube, as suggested by their algorithm. When I started watching videos on how the intersectionality movement, the SJWs, what I call the Church of Woke, started influencing popular culture, movies, video games, trading card games, comic books. I didn't really understand a lot of the changes that they were making with the characters. So then I started sort of watching videos critiquing casting choices and why certain people were picked over others based on sort of superficial qualities. Watching that kind of media started showing me alternative alternative news, and it was kind of like Toto at the end of The Wizard of Oz, you know, peeling back the curtain and showing us that the wizard is just a dude running everything and, you know, distracting you with a giant head. But even then, I still hated Trump. And I hated Trump because of the way he spoke. Even when I started finding out things that weren't what the mainstream media said, I still didn't like him. You know, I didn't like his personality. I didn't like the way he tweets. But I at least gave him a chance. I started kind of realizing maybe he's not as bad as people say. The other big thing is I started seeing censorship on the left. And as a comedian and as someone who likes to speak his mind, sometimes to his detriment, I have an issue with that. So I was part of a burlesque troupe that did a lot of drag numbers. So I've also been in drag because it's a big theater thing and I'm a big theater person. So I was doing stand-up and drag. The funny thing is I was called out on my racist jokes about one particular group when they didn't have any issues with any of the other jokes I made, including jokes about other groups. So I thought that was kind of hypocritical, and I started noticing that about a lot of people on the left. Not everybody, mind you, not everybody. But things just kept pushing me, and because I was called a racist, I started noticing how much that word was just freely tossed around, and oh, everybody's a racist, or if they're not a racist, they're borderline racist, and I don't even know what the hell that means. But then I started paying attention to how the Mueller report, the Kavanaugh, the job interview slash kangaroo court, the Covington Catholic kids incident, the Jussie Smollett, well, the alleged hate crime, the Ukrainian non-scandal, all of that, the way it was handled by the Democrats, the mainstream media, and Hollywood celebrities, all kind of working in tandem. I didn't like the way it was handled. Nothing came of any of that. If anything, it sort of backfired on the left. I noticed how biased Hollywood was, how entitled celebrities were. Um, People from the Marvel Universe were telling me who I had to vote for instead of just telling me it's important for me to go vote. I started noticing that on TV shows too. It was just very one sided, and I didn't like that. It just kind of felt like, okay, yeah, Trump is the big bully, but you guys are doing the same things, and you're not even realizing it's like it's a lack of self awareness. Heaven forbid I started watching a lot more conservative videos because their information seemed to make sense, you know, the way they presented it, where they got it. A lot of it was from national, crime statistic databases or like the institutions that, have official data on things. Whenever I would bring this stuff up to people, because I'm like, well, okay, let's argue about the merits of Trump, not just where he's a failure, because I don't think anyone's a failure 100% of the time. It was always emotional arguments and, oh, he's a racist and he's the bigot and he's the worst thing. And they weren't hard facts. They weren't anything substantial. Things that didn't quite work for me, you know. And I'm a very emotional person, so I've had my fair share of, especially when I hated Trump, of just sharing things without reading articles or without understanding context. The worst part was I was insulted, belittled. I feel bullied, guilt tripped, publicly sort of almost like shamed by the people who are unfortunately close to me. And to the point I've been told to conform because I'm a contrarian and it's time to just stop being a contrarian and just give in. I've been told by somebody who I guess is no longer my friend that he doesn't understand what happened in my life for me to get to this point, and until things change, I guess, then we can't be friends anymore. And I was okay with that. I mean, to a certain extent, I wasn't, but ultimately, I decided if that's what's going to break our friendship up, so be it. It became something where I kept feeling like I was pushed more and more. I couldn't speak my mind. I couldn't disagree with the dogma of intersectionality, of the woke church, of radical feminism, of what the LGBTQIA community was doing. It's just, it all got to be too much, too fast, and it all seemed to be based on emotion. And whenever it's criticized, it's met with a lot of almost very aggressive energy. I wouldn't always say violent, but very aggressive. And to be completely fair, this is not everybody on the left. There are a lot of people who just, because this is who they are, don't really follow what's going on. And that's okay to a certain extent, right? But at the same time, you kind of have to pay attention if you want to have an opinion that's validated. Otherwise, you're just getting caught up in the emotions. And you're not really condemning anything that your side is doing. Because not that the Republican Party is my side. I don't really have a side. I'm sort of independent. I am quick to call out Trump when I think that he does things that are bad. You know, I have to know the context and the reason as to why he's doing the things that he's doing or things that he said. And it's really, really hard to trust what people on the left tell me. And it sucks because I don't want to build a wall, ironically enough, with people. I've always been a person to try to build bridges. I've always, collected little broken birds, as somebody once said. I try to help people heal, but I also try to get them to think critically, and I think that's what I hadn't been doing for a long time. And once I started doing it, there was a big disconnect with the Democratic Party in the same way that I had a big disconnect with the Catholic faith. And rather than being pushed more and more as the left starts getting more and more radicalized, I decided that I'm just going to walk away. I'm just going to grab my stuff, walk out that door, and never look back. Thanks for listening.